Welcome to the DiveSite podcast with Fat Guy Scuba, where we share stories, laughs, and everything scuba diving. I'm DJ, and today we're going to be talking about scuba diving the deserts of Arizona. Whether it was the school bus at Lake Mojave or what the hell just touched my leg at Lake Pleasant, we've all got a story, so let's dive in. Welcome to the DiveSite. Along with me tonight, we have Chris, James, and Matt. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
Howdy. How's it going?
And tonight we are going to be talking about how we dive in Arizona, where we don't have nice warm oceans or clear water for that matter. Who wants to start? Chris, go for it.
All right. So, diving in Arizona. One does not associate scuba diving in the desert, but yet we do it. And we have quite a lot of dive shops in this place. More than you would assume for the desert, but we definitely make it work. So, one good option for us is, at least here in the Phoenix area, we do have basically our man-made lake. We have Lake Pleasant, pretty much where most of us go to get certified and train and advance our other diving skills. So, but yeah, the lake definitely works for us.
Lake Pleasant's actually pretty fun. Like you're saying, yeah, it's a local lake. It's a man-made lake. I think it's a great spot to go train.
She's deep too.
It is. And there's a lot of history behind it as well. There's a lot of people don't know that the lake was dammed up in the early 90s and that the old original dam structure is still in place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys have dove on the old lake before as well, right?
The old dam?
The dam.
Yeah, the old dam.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
done
sorry.
the dam.
Been there.
Yeah.
I've been out to the dam. I got lost at the dam.
Uh-huh.
Oh, did you?
Yep. We were with another diver who went just straight down. And I kind of panicked watching my deco kind of tick away and get close to that. And I was still a fairly newer diver with maybe 40-ish dives, and signaled that we needed to turn the dive and get shallower, and thought that my buddies were following me, and they weren't.
No, we weren't.
And as the three of you know, the visibility is not good in the summertime. And so there's a 200-foot section of the dam that's cut out when they backfilled for the new dam. And instead of doing what my training says to do and doing my lost buddy procedure, my thought was the dive boat is anchored directly to the dam. There's no way I can miss this giant structure. I'm going to swim right at the dam. I'm going to go up the side of it, along the top of it, right to the anchor point, and I'm going to go up the anchor line to the boat. Done, and done. Kicked right through that 200-foot section of the dam and never saw it.
Well, that's fantastic. Did you make it? No, I'm just kidding. I know you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I surfaced about 150 yards on the other side of the dam from where I wanted to be. So I did a nice little surface swim back to the boat, which was not ideal because that's the middle of the lake
boat channel.
Yeah.
That's the middle of the lake channel. So all of the people out there in boats and stuff. So I popped my SMB and got to the top. And
Oh, that's good. That's good. 40 dives in and you're popping your SMB. That's actually impressive.
yeah.
Because I know a lot of people with that few of dives at that time, that's probably not something that's on their mind, and getting a little excited during the dive, especially when you're going solo at that point and you can't find your buddies. That's like one of the last things that they're thinking about. Right?
Yeah.
They're just like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. I gotta find my buddy. I gotta go straight to the surface.
Yep. Nope.
You
I
know.
did my safety stop. I did all of the things that I needed to do except for my lost buddy procedure. Solo diver now, so hashtag tech diving.
Dang.
You wouldn't have found us anyway. We were on the other side of the dam going down the buttresses. That was 110. I was like, yeah, we need to turn this now. But somebody kept going deeper. Gotta go.
But no, there's a ton of stuff to see at the lake.
go.
There's all sorts of boats that have been sank, whether they were purposefully sunk or accidentally sunk. There's great rock formations. There's Tech Island where you can do all of any kind of diving you'd like to do, whether it's shallow or wall or deep for you and James. The lake really offers something for everybody.
Yeah. I think it's for the desert, it's a premium training ground, right? We don't have a lot of options locally, of course, but we do have the option to go out there and train up to 100 meters, which is not something that most places get, let alone landlocked desert states. So it's really a premium situation for us. The visibility, not great, right?
Sure.
But some parts of the year, the visibility is on par with most places that you would vacation to in the world, right? So in the wintertime, we might have 40 on a good day. We might have 80-foot viz, that wonder day, I'm not saying that's an everyday thing, but
The trade-off is it's cold.
It's cold, yeah, and cold is not Great Lakes cold, or Arctic cold, but it is
50 degrees,
which is which is a solid cold water.
You'll know you're in the water.
Most definitely, yeah, not by accident.
Yeah,
Definitely
no,
chilly.
You know you're there when you're diving in January, February.
Yeah. So just to have, an easy access, it's close to town relatively. It doesn't get any better than that.
No, it really doesn't.
Really, I mean, we're solid, It's just great. It's like the Midwest, they have their quarries, right? We have the same thing, except it happens to be our water supply for our city.
It's our reservoir.
Yep.
But and then an hour from there is the international airport to get anywhere else we want to go.
Yeah.
So it's a great setup.
Really and truly, we're very lucky. We don't have to drive. I know there's some of the shops that are part of the shop network that Chris and I teach at, and they drive 2 and 3 hours to get to
A site.
just a training ground to be able to train divers, do open water classes. Like we've got for most of us, we've got the lake within 45 minutes of the house. But I mean, even beyond that too, we've got Rocky Point's only 3 hours away, and the visibility is better than the lake. There's Lake Mojave, which is 3 hours away, 3.5 hours away. Southern California's 5.5, 6 hours away.
Easily jump on a boat in San Pedro and go check out Catalina.
Yep. Yeah,
Other options.
we're very fortunate compared to a lot. I mean, we're not like the Bahamas or like the Caribbean fortunate, but I mean, we also don't have to deal with the humidity. So
This is true.
yeah.
And it's a good thing that we have the training ground that we do, because we get to experience all kinds of different things throughout the year, which helps build up a lot of the different skills. So when it comes to navigation, we can start practicing navigation during the wintertime when the visibility is great. And, it's a good time to practice that and get prepared for when the visibility starts going really bad to where it's, 5 feet of visibility during the summertime. Really hone in some of those skills after you've practiced and kind of learned some of those dive sites. And it's a great way to reinforce that for sure.
Absolutely. I tell all of my students that they should learn to get comfortable diving the lake. Like, nobody wants to go dive the lake, but we do because, again, like we've said, it's close. It's convenient. The visibility in the wintertime is decent. But if you can learn to be comfortable in diving, even in the summertime where it's 3 to 5 foot of visibility, depending on how deep you are, if you can learn to be comfortable and proficient in diving that, you can do it everywhere. If you can be a good diver there, you can be a great diver when the visibility is 100 feet.
Absolutely. So we most recently did a dive down to 130 feet, and visibility was subpart best on the way down. I'd say probably past 90 feet, 80 feet, the visibility was pretty good. And then once we got to about 120 feet, it got down to about 6 feet, 5 feet, somewhere in there. And once we started doing our stop at that depth, the visibility went to trash. But through some navigation, we would be able to find our way back if needed through some training, right? Through some good navigation training and understanding the layout of the dive site. And it's great. We've got those different tiers, even during the cold season. Yeah. There's different layers, and you get to experience those thermoclines as well. Not a lot of places have thermoclines necessarily. If you're out in the Caribbean, there's not really going to be a thermocline. It's just going to be warm.
It's just the
it's
warm
just
ocean.
comfortable all the time, right?
I experienced my first, I don't know that you'd call it a thermocline, while I was cenote diving 2 weeks ago. There was one of the cenotes we did was deep enough that it had a halocline, and in the halocline and below was warmer than what the freshwater was. And
So it's kind of flipped.
Yeah. And it's super welcomed when you're cold and you get to go down into the warmer water.
Oh, really? I think there's a few lakes like that, right? Isn't James? You might be able to chime in on some of that from your experience.
Yeah, there's several to answer your question, but anything that's geothermal fed is going to be like that, pretty typical. Gosh, even locally in the Southwest, we have some geothermal. There's Bonneville Sea Flats, which is out obviously in the salt flats. Bonneville has salt flats, but also it has a geothermal fed spring, so you end up with a really warm and accurate salinity content to ocean. So there's actually some saltwater fish in there. Pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then there's a whole bunch of geothermal stuff. There's a couple of geothermal caves here in Arizona, which aren't frequently dived, of course, but they get warmer the deeper you go. It's really, really pretty cool when you get into some unique geothermal water bodies.
Yeah.
And some of them are lakes, some of them are caves, some of them are just outflows, whatever it is.
Sure.
There's a lot of really cool spots there.
That's cool. Nice.
You want to talk about Lake Mojave?
Yeah, we can delve into Lake Mojave. That's been our most recent.
You've dove Lake Mojave, right, James? Matt, you have not yet. Right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So, was it beginning of May? DJ and myself, we took a little Fat Guy's adventure up to Laughlin to dive and experience Lake Mojave. I'm just trying to get ideas and get out of the area because, something other than our lake. Let's go try other lakes. So this was actually a pretty cool dive. I mean, everything's Colorado River fed. So, I mean, Lake Mojave was a little colder because it's all fed by the Colorado. So where we go, Campsite Cove or something like that? Yeah, so we went to Campsite.
Campsite.
Yeah. And with that, I guess a lot of local shops up in Vegas, they use that area to do training because there's a sunken bus up there. There's a 20 or 30-foot cabin cruiser that's sunk around the back cove in about 70, 75 feet. That's actually
that's cool.
That was a pretty cool dive on that one because it was a good swim out around looking at all the underwater features. You're like, all right, where's the boat? And then when you turn the corner, you're like, oh, there it is. And water clarity was amazing. Very, very awesome.
What was the temperature when you guys were there?
62 on water temp.
60 to 65.
That's nice, actually.
And that's May.
Yeah. I dove the semi-dry and was warm in it the whole time. Mm-hmm. Chris had his 7 mil. We were fine. I could have used some gloves. Deeper we got, we hit a thermal climb. Hands got a little cold, but having some 3 mil gloves or something would have been a little nice. But I didn't think to bring them. So
yeah, and on the boat side, we did the boat side. There was nobody there. Water clarity and amazing, no disturbances. Then we jumped to the other side of the peninsula and dove the school bus. That's where all the shops were doing all their training class. So they had all students swimming around. So they were kicking up all the bottom material and stuff like that. So you could see all the particulate in the water. Viz was all right, not too bad. Pretty cool, diving next to that school bus, skeleton in the driver's seat. What was weird about that lake though was the composition of the bottom. I almost describe it as like marshmallow fluff. Like if you touched it, your hand just sunk into it, but it felt like marshmallowy, spongy type thing. I've never seen a bottom like that, and that was like that on both sides. I must have been hungry because that was what just popped into my head. I was like, oh, this looks like marshmallow.
That's kind of silty. I mean, probably like Vista on the deeper end down by the rail.
yeah, it was very much like that. If you touched it, kicked it up, like it was just gonna go everywhere.
It's just going to hang out for a long time.
Yeah. It was super
fine.
like like Vista in at the deeper part, or like Christmas tree at the deeper part where it kind of funnels into that bowl like talcum powder.
Yeah, but yeah, some of the other things with that, we were talking to the local shops. Do what you do is you talk to the locals, see what's up, and they gave us pretty much the rundown of that dive site that they use, and they're like, okay, you probably got 1 or 2 more weeks up here, and they go after that. Then it becomes, party and jet ski heaven, and stay away from this place for the summer, and then come back in October-ish when everybody goes away.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the unfortunate things. Right? Yeah. Like dive sites become pretty dangerous because the majority of the people that own jet skis or boats that try and launch in that area, they really don't know what a dive flag is or what it means. They just don't respect it. I think it's just out of lack of knowledge. There's some ignorance out there for sure, but it's
just a lack of, they just don't care.
Yeah, that too, unfortunately. But it's a good thing we do have some areas that are a little more protected than others, though.
I agree with that. I would like to see, with as popular as Lake Pleasant is, I would like to see something that's dedicated to divers only, or like maybe 2 spots that are dedicated to divers only. That is, look, if you want to do shoreline, you can go camp or hang out for the day or what have you. But like launching watercraft right there should be at least have a designated area that's just off limits for that. You know, the lake's got several boat ramps. Go do the thing at the boat ramp.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some of those dive sites that we go to are like pretty darn close to the boat ramps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to top that, unfortunately as well, the people with jet skis don't choose to use those boat ramps, and they choose to use the shore access.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get trailers and such down in the areas that we go diving, because we're looking for
Shoreline
access that has a nice even slope to it that doesn't descend too quickly, something that we can walk down, and as the lake goes up and down, which that's something we could talk about as well, you know, with the lake levels. As the lake goes up and down, it still doesn't change how difficult it is to find depth for those that are doing training, and it doesn't descend quickly enough to where it becomes a possible issue, because the depth doesn't change quickly.
I will say that's the one advantage that we do get, along with the visibility. That's the one advantage we have with diving in the wintertime, is there's not nearly as much boat traffic, not as much, you know, watercraft traffic in general, or even shoreline traffic. There's not as many people just out hanging out at the lake, which I get because, you know, you go to the lake to get in the water, but also when it's a billion degrees outside, I don't want to just sit and sunburn on the side of the lake. I don't need to be a rotisserie fat guy.
And then again, one of the other options that the scuba shops up when we were up at Lake Mojave were saying are like, yeah, the other possibility is to, you know, experiment and mess around with Willow Beach, which is basically right below the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
So, but you know, that's definitely another exploration day or exploration weekend per se.
Yeah, I'd like to get out to Willow Beach
I think there's
and
a guy
check out Emerald Cove.
There's a guy that runs a boat up there too.
So James, you weren't with us on the other podcast. What's your favorite spot to dive in Arizona?
Geez, in Arizona, I mean, there's actually a fair amount of places to dive. None of them are super sexy, right? We've talked about Lake Pleasant, which is unfortunately where I live most of the time. You know, it is what it is. I'm obviously teaching a lot out there, so it's a great training ground, but it's not the Caribbean. It's not whatever. It's not the travel destination. My favorite thing to do is, again, not the sexiest thing, but we do have some caves in Arizona, which most people aren't aware of. And I live in Tucson, which is kind of the spelunking capital of Arizona.
Caverns.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have cool opportunities there. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. And I've been out with some other guys, you know, locally here from Phoenix, and we've done some kind of just exploratory. You know, I mean, that's most exploration results in nothing, and that's kind of the cool thing about it is you put in a day or two or three or whatever, how much work you put into it, and then you end up doing a shitty 30-minute 1 hour exploratory dive and you find nothing. Or you find really crappy conditions, or you find a bunch of silt, or you know, there's just nothing there. And I think that's what, you know, everybody gets to romanticize and glorify all this cool cave diving that's done in Playa, done in, you know, the Yucatan, done in Bahamas, done in wherever.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of that cool stuff going on, you know, Texas, Florida, all that. But that's not the norm. The norm is swimming into a puddle that looks like crap and finding nothing. So that's my favorite thing to do, is to go around and find random things that I can dive to and try to find something. Occasionally it works out, but most of the time it does not. And so that soaks up most of the time.
So I'm curious about this because per our conversation earlier off the podcast, we were talking about I want to get into cave diving, and I had no idea that we had diveable caves here in Arizona. Like not even a little bit.
Yeah, because they haven't been on Nat Geo.
Wow.
You know, and
Fair.
I think that's realistically, I think that's where that comes from. Everybody gets to see the Yucatan. There's a movie out right now about the Bahamas caves, and they are world-class incredible. I mean, and that doesn't do it justice. It is amazing. If I made a video of the stuff that I've done in southern Arizona, it would 1 star, would not recommend. So
Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah, exactly. Not great. But
So what you're saying is Arizona is not a cave diving or cavern diving destination.
No, not at all. However, when you see those videos on Facebook or whatever, and there's some guy that's kicking his way through a mud puddle, that's the stuff that we get to do. And most of it's, as you might imagine, pretty crappy. But it's fun, it's fun. It's not about, if I wind up in a chamber one day and there's, Karshner Caverns underwater, fantastic. I'm not going to complain. But exploring is the fun there.
It's the name of the game.
That's the game. It's not about what you find. It's about just going and looking.
Yeah, because at some point, I mean, you get used to these dive sites, right? You're like, oh, okay, well, let's go over to the poker table and go off the wall again and go over here and come back, and okay, cool, we did that again. And I can see how that could get a little repetitive, and you're like, you know what? I wonder what's past this. Let's go check this out. I wonder what's over in this direction. Not a lot of people go over there. Let's go check this out.
And I mean, as you advance in your diving careers, you take, more advanced courses, Tech 40, Tech 45, rebreather, stuff like that. James, when Matt and Ian and everybody was out at the lake doing another project over at Christmas Tree, I had run into you, Alan, and Colin when you guys were coming back, and you guys went out, 4 miles or something like that? Or you guys were out for 4 hours, or you guys went out to somewhere in the middle of the lake and then turned to come back.
Yeah, that was, and again, it just always comes back to exploring. Yeah. Some people, this is what turns the crank, right? Some people not. Some people are okay with going and looking at fish. And trust me, there's days where I'm like, man, I wish that really excited me. I couldn't tell you a fish species if my life depended on it. I don't know anything about fish. However, yeah, that day, I had plotted a course on Google Maps and had done some research and upload that to an underwater nav system, which costs more than the majority of people's, scuba gear, kit, all of it. And that's what we did. Is the objective, the fun, was to try to see if we could navigate to Tech Island. So we left Christmas Tree Reef and then went out and then made a 90-degree angle up to Tech Island, nailed that, and then took a tangent back to Christmas Tree Reef and a little dog leg, or a little kind of loop around some topography. But ultimately, it ended up being a couple of miles. I forget what it was off the top of my head, but that was the objective. That was the cool thing. And most of that dive, as I just mentioned, most of that dive kind of sucked. We were in pretty crappy viz for at least half of it. Wow. But the cool thing was we made it to our objective based off of a speed sensor and an inertial measurement unit that we have mounted on our DPVs. And we were able to navigate through a couple of miles of this lake with, can't see it in front of our face, too much. I ran into several mountains under the lake.
Oh, wow.
It's just times where you can't see, and you're going and you're trucking along, and you're race against time, because we have, only a couple hours underwater, and you're race against batteries, and you're race against all this sort of stuff, thermal, all these sort of things.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, we got to get there, but at the same time, I can't see shit. So I need to go, right?
Yeah.
I need to go and not run into anything. And we went up there, and, we were able to complete the objective and see a whole bunch of cool things along the way and do some fun stuff. But that's what I'm saying, is that Lake Pleasant is special because it affords us that opportunity to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can do any type of diving that you want to do there. I mean, with the exception of cave diving, stuff like that. But it's, if you want to learn tech, you can do tech. If you want to just do recreational diving, you can just do that.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the biggest catfish I've ever seen in my life. I've seen underwater at the lake. The biggest school of striped bass we saw that one time over at Scorpion Bay was huge.
Yeah. I've never seen recently, I saw a school of fish. Exactly. Yeah. There was probably 30, 40 fish. I didn't know that bass like that would school together. Yeah. And during the spawning season, it's amazing too. I think we talked about this in the
how
first
they get
episode,
aggressive with you.
Well, that too, but just when they're spawning and you see all the little tiny babies, and there's literally hundreds, if not 1,000 of those little tiny fish all over the place, just hanging out, and it looks like poor viz because it's just a cloud of fish.
Yeah,
really, yeah.
Some of the best strange, I don't want to sound super dumb, but spiritual times in the lake is when you're in the wintertime, and you can get surrounded by kind of what we would call bait ball, in our local lake. Which is
all 30 fish.
yeah, exactly. Kind of dumb, but and there's bugs in the water and all this sort of cool stuff.
Sure.
But when the viz is good and you get surrounded by a whole bunch of little fish on Tico or something like that,
it's
right?
cool.
You're like, man, this is pretty awesome. And again, it's not the bait ball that you'd see in the Philippines. It's not the bait ball that you'd see, wherever.
Right.
Lena.
Yeah, it's none of that stuff. But for what we got, it cost me almost $0 to get there.
Yeah, gas and time.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm having a great time, and I'm building skills, and I'm preparing for my next flight out to someplace that is, truly amazing.
Well, sure. I mean, like I said, when you become a proficient diver here at the lake and you learn to appreciate the lake, it makes diving the other places better. There's nothing wrong with diving on vacation. Diving a couple times a year, and if that's all you want to do. I know very proficient divers that have several hundred dives that only dive on vacation. They've not done dive one in the lake. And there's something to be said for being able to not have to spend your first day of diving while you're trying to figure out your weights or having to figure out buoyancy when you go from diving freshwater to saltwater.
The only thing that we don't have at the lake that you would experience out in the ocean is surge or surface chop, and that can definitely throw us for a loop when we go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
It's something that we don't experience, right? Because we do take some of that for granted, and
sure.
because you can just go down to 20, 30 feet, hang out, hover, and the water's not moving at all. But you go out to the ocean and you get that surge, things are moving, going back and forth. That takes some practice. It really does. And for the newer divers, it can throw them off. It definitely helps out when you do get to experience that. When we do take the drives out to San Pedro and go out to Catalina, experience that for a little bit, come back to our lake, train a little more, tone up on the buoyancy, and figure that stuff out.
And even just being out on a boat, on a dive boat when it's choppy out, there's something to be said for that too. The first time I got on a dive boat, all over the side of the boat, just all of my breakfast.
Oh, that's how all the fish come out.
Yep. So
What'd you have for breakfast?
pineapple and blue Gatorade.
Do you know what the fish had for breakfast? Pineapple and blue Gatorade.
Yeah.
The easiest times to vomit is when you've had something sweet with Gatorade.
Yeah.
So Cinnabons, pineapple, that is premium vomiting time.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't even mind being seasick when that's what I've had.
Yeah, because you don't have like that acidic.
No,
oh.
it is rock on. I know this is weird. That's when you're like, yeah, this tastes just as good coming up as it did. There was one time I was on a boat. I went to the back of the boat. I mean, I'm seasick. I get seasick easy, whatever. So I didn't take my Dramamine, blah blah blah. Go to the back of the boat. I had Cinnabons, some Gatorade. I knew it was coming up. I'm a pro at this. I've been to college. I've had 20s, so I'm a professional puker, right? And so I went to the back of the boat, and just a normal seasick situation, right? So you're like, okay, let's do this, right? You go, and then the funny part was I timed it wrong, so there was some surge, and I went into the water, and then the next set of surge, or the next set of waves, threw that back in my face, and half of me was like, I was laughing, right?
Sure.
Like, this is so funny. Damn you, ocean. But it was actually, it wasn't an ocean, it was a lake. That was funny. But Great Lakes. So look, it's like basically an ocean. But anyways, it was real funny. That was one time that being sick was comical.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's miserable.
Well, yeah. I had it the first time I ever felt like I was going to throw up in my reg. We had just finished our DM class, and I was assisting in an open water class, and another instructor buddy of ours was like, hey, this guy's getting certified. Hang out with his wife for a while. Take her, go do a dive with his wife, and just get her out of here so we can finish his open water. And so I'm looking at my computer, and I'm trying to look at my compass, and I feel like I'm spinning in the water. And I got super nauseous and thought that I was going to throw up in my reg set. And I instinctively pulled my reg out of my mouth, right? Because you don't want to throw up into it. But realize right then, wait, I need to put this back in my mouth so I can, if I do end up throwing up, I don't inhale a bunch of water.
Throwing up underwater is not that bad. right?
I've never done it. I've been real close to
Really?
it. I've been real close to it.
Not myself either.
The one time I almost did underwater, Christy and I were in the Dominican and we were on our safety stop. We were surfacing and it had blown out of the reef and it was just sandy bottom. Like there wasn't like anything identifying and it didn't feel like you're moving and we were kind of in some chop and I could feel that like alkaline taste starting to build and I could feel it like, oh, I'm going to throw up. And I was like, nope. I was like, you're moving. Like, you're moving. Stop this. You're not going to. I'm telling myself you're not going to throw up. As soon as we surfaced, out of the water.
Yeah, I led a trip one time where half the people had already thrown up on the boat. The other half threw up once they got in the water.
Oh,
I
gross.
had no shit, guys. You know how leading a trip is, right?
yeah.
You're trying to get everybody down.
Yep.
Everybody's complaining about something dumb, right? Like, my snorkel keeper, you're like, whatever. Shut up, get underwater quickly.
Yeah.
We're all getting our ass kicked up here on the surface. And it was just, it's just one of those bad days, right? Weather's there's nothing we can do about it, blah blah blah. Anyways, I'm getting this group. There's a couple of trip leaders, and we're getting these groups of people in the water, and the groups of people are having to dodge each other's vomit on the surface of the water.
Man.
And we're just trying to get under the water,
man.
right? We just have to get down. We just have, and even like the first 20 feet, there was surge probably, 10, 15 feet each way. Like, it was brutal. I can't believe we were diving. It was amazing. It was awesome. But on the other hand, like, it was freaking miserable. And we all wanted this to be the longest dive of our life because we knew that once we got up, we had to get
To go back through the vomit.
get back on the boat, continue to get the shit kicked out of us on the ladder. It was pretty terrible, but definitely a memory that I'll keep forever.
Oh, those are always the fun ones, aren't they?
The trials and tribulations, right? Forged by fire, all that stuff. That's where it's at. I've had a lot of amazing dives in my life, some of which I probably couldn't even tell you about. I've been places that no one's ever been before. I've seen things that no one's ever seen before, and that's cool. But the real cool stuff is working with your buddies on a dive trip and getting all those students through shitty conditions, or like doing an epic gear fix. Like, I can't believe I've saved this zip tie for 6 months.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, the cool stuff seems to be always the terrible stuff, I guess. That seems to be always the way out. The cool stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, so we talked about our local lake, the few different dive sites that we go to out there. We talked about how that kind of helps prep us for other vacations that we go on and come back and use that to kind of hone in those skills.
And as we experience and find more dive sites, we'll mention more of those and our experiences in these other different locations. Hopefully we'll get a few more coming up soon.
I think there's a ton of places out there. I mean, it doesn't matter how many lifetimes you have, you'll never be able to see it all or dive it all.
Oh, sure.
It's unfortunate. I mean, imagine what you've done on land, right? You have not seen every national park. You have not seen every city, tasted every barbecue, blah, blah, blah. When you apply that to the underwater world, it gets even harder.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, all you can do is keep going, put what money and time you have into diving and, build those memories. And then, when you croak, it all goes with you. So
Nope.
yeah.
All of our stuff's on YouTube.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, fair enough.
So I put it on YouTube.
And iHeartRadio.
Yeah, iHeartRadio, Spotify. You can find the podcast everywhere. There's also the YouTube channel with all the YouTube videos. Not that I'm a great photographer or videographer, but I like to think that I am.
Nice plug, guy. I like that. That was awesome.
That.
Yeah.
Good
Good
stuff.
stuff.
I guess my stuff's not that special then. I guess we'll share it with everyone.
So.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Well, this has been the episode of Diving Arizona with Fat Guy Scuba. Have a good night.